Act 1, Ink, Dust, and Desperation. The air in the midnight Mercury newsroom hung thick with the scent of stale coffee, cheap toner, and impending doom. Silas Thorne, reporter, officially, magician, unofficially, and professional seeker of the strange, hunched over his terminal. The flickering screen displayed his latest opus, Loch Ness spotted in Lake Michigan, fisherman claims tentacled terror. Beneath the lurid headline, Silas had buried the real story, a pattern of unexplained disappearances near the waterfront, whispers of unnatural currents, and a chillingly familiar detail. A single, hand-stitched rag doll found floating near each site, just like the one clutched by his sister Lily, the day she vanished 20 years ago. Thorne. The bellow cut through the low hum of dying computers and despair. Mortimer Finch, the Mercury's perpetually sweating editor, loomed over Silas's desk like a deflating zeppelin. Is this the best you got, Nessie? Online's eating us alive with real clickbait, alien influencers, and celebrity hauntings. We need eyeballs, Silas. Eyeballs, or this ship sinks next month. It's got legs, Mort, Silas rasped, rubbing the bridge of his nose. A faint silvery scar traced his left temple, a souvenir from a run-in with a bar guest last year. Something is dragging people down near the docks. Not Nessie, something worse. Worse sells. Finch jabbed a sausage finger at the screen. Make it bleed. Make it scream. Just make it sell. He stomped away, leaving a miasma of cheap cologne and desperation. Silas sighed, pushing his wire-rimmed glasses up. His eyes, a tired hazel, scanned the newsroom, a graveyard of journalistic ambition. This decaying tabloid was his cover, his access to police scanners, city records, and the desperate souls who called tip lines with stories too weird for the Times. All resources funneled into one impossible quest, finding Lily. Cheerful fellow, a gravelly voice piped up from Silas's wastepaper basket. Almost makes you nostalgic for angry kobolds. Only Silas saw the small figure perched precariously on the bin's edge. Pablo stood about a foot tall, skin like weathered oak bark, eyes like obsidian chips reflecting the fluorescent lights. He wore a tiny patched jacket woven from dried leaves and spider silk, and smoked a minuscule clay pipe that smelled suspiciously of moss and damp earth. A duende, a Filipino earth spirit and Silas's most reliable, if infuriating, confidential informant. Finch smells bankruptcy, Pablo, Silas muttered, keeping his voice low. He's not wrong. Online media's a hungry beast. What have you got on the docks? The doll connection. It feels close. Pablo puffed his pipe, sending miniature smoke rings curling towards the ceiling tiles. Close, yes, but not Lily close, Silas. This stinks of something older, hungrier. The currents whisper of nuno sapunso, but twisted, angry, dragging things down not to guard, but to feed. Silas's heart, perpetually clenched around the hole Lily left, gave a painful thud. Not her. Again. But the doll. Feed on what? Life, Pablo said simply. Sorrow, fear, the easy pickings near stagnant water. 3 gone, yes? Dock worker, drunkard, runaway. Easy prey, but the pattern? It's accelerating. The thing's getting bolder, or hungrier. He tapped his pipe against the bin. Check the old Wilson Cannery warehouse, West Pier. Smells like wet graves and bad magic down there. Act 2, Shadows in the Cannery. The Wilson Cannery loomed against the bruised purple sky of dusk, a skeletal silhouette of crumbling brick and rusted iron. The air off the lake was cold, biting, carrying the reek of dead fish, rotting wood, and something else, a cloying dampness that felt like despair made tangible. Silas's worn trench coat offered little protection. In his pocket, he clutched a smooth riverstone etched with warding symbols, his focus. Lovely spot, Pablo grumbled, materializing on a rusted bollard. Perfect for picnics, if your idea of a picnic involves tetanus and existential dread. Focus, Pablo, Silas whispered, his reporter's notebook out, pen ready. Habit. He scanned the warehouse entrance, a gaping maw, where giant doors had long since rotted away. Inside, only deeper darkness. He drew a small amount of energy, whispering a word under his breath. His vision sharpened, cutting through the gloom. The mundane decay remained, but Overlaid now were sickly green phosphorescent smears on the damp concrete floor, residual magical traces, cold and predatory. Definitely our boy, Pablo confirmed, hopping down and scurrying ahead. Tracks like slug trails made of nightmares. Follow the slime maestro. Silas stepped inside. The silence was oppressive, broken only by the drip, drip, drip of water and the skittering of unseen rats. His enhanced sight revealed the glowing trails converging towards the far end of the vast space. Near what looked like a flooded loading dock access, the smell of decay intensified. Suddenly, a choked gurgle echoed through the cavernous space. A human sound. Silas broke into a run, Pablo a blur at his heels. Rounding a stack of decaying crates, he froze. A figure, a young woman in tattered clothes, was half submerged in oily black water bubbling up from a large broken drain cover. Thick, ropey strands of dark viscous something were coiled around her legs and waist, pulling her relentlessly downwards. Her eyes were wide with terror, mouth working soundlessly. Above her, coalescing from the shadows near the ceiling, loomed the source. It wasn't a Nuno. It was a horror. A pulsating mass of shadow and dripping waterweed, vaguely humanoid but elongated, with too many jointed limbs ending in hooked, bony claws. Where a face should be was only a dark, sucking vortex. The air around it hummed with a low, subsonic thrum that vibrated in Silas's bones, sapping his will. Kappa. Grafted onto a water hag, Pablo hissed, scrambling behind Silas. Nasty piece of work. Likes the hair. Watch your hair. The creature lashed out, not with a claw, but with a whip-like tendril of pure shadow. Silas ducked, the tendril whistling past his ear and cracking against a crate, reducing it to splinters. He fumbled in his coat pocket, past the notebook, grabbing a small glass vial filled with coarse salt and iron filings. He hurled it at the creature's central mass. It shattered. The creature recoiled with a shriek like tearing metal, the salt and iron sizzling where it struck the shadow flesh, leaving smoldering patches. The tendrils holding the woman slackened momentarily. She gasped, flailing. "Run!" Silas yelled, drawing his focus stone. He poured energy into it, channeling raw force. A bolt of silvery light, thin but potent, lanced from his outstretched hand, striking the creature's vortex face. It shrieked again, the sound echoing painfully. But it wasn't enough. Enraged, the creature surged forward, multiple limbs lashing out. Silas dodged one, but another caught him across the chest, throwing him backwards. Pain flared, and he felt the warm trickle of blood beneath his shirt. He hit the wet concrete hard, his glasses flying off, the world blurred. Pablo was a whirlwind of tiny fury. "Hey, ugly, over here!" The duenda flung handfuls of pungent, glittering dust ground moonstone and cayenne pepper into the creature's vortex. It howled, thrashing blindly. Silas scrambled for his glasses, his vision swimming. He saw the woman finally pull free of the weakened tendrils, scrambling towards the entrance. Good. He saw Pablo dodging like a furious hummingbird. He saw the creature, wounded but furious, turning its full attention towards him, the vortex deepening, pulling at him, draining his energy even from feet away. No, not here. Not without finding Lily. Desperation ignited a cold fury. He didn't have the power for another bolt. But he had will. And he had something else. He grabbed his press pass, cheap plastic, but symbolically potent. Truth. Exposure. He focused every ounce of his magic, his reporter's instinct to reveal, into the flimsy card. He held it aloft like a shield. Reveal yourself. The command tore from his throat, raw and powerful, amplified by the stone still clenched in his other hand. Magic, sharp and bright as a camera flash, erupted from the press pass. The creature screamed a sound of pure, unbearable agony. The shadows composing its form writhed and burned under the harsh, revealing light. It wasn't sunlight, but it was truth light, anathema to something that thrived in hidden despair. The vortex face contorted, shrank. The creature imploded, collapsing inwards with a wet, sucking pop, leaving only a foul-smelling puddle of brackish slices and the lingering echo of its shriek. Silas collapsed to his knees, gasping, his nose bleeding freely, his vision dimming at the edges. The effort had hollowed him out. Act 3. Dead Ends and Darker Paths. The young woman, shivering under a thermal blanket provided by the newly arrived and very confused police, confirmed she'd been grabbed near the pier. Something cold came out of the drain, she stammered. Silas gave his statement, sticking to the plausible a deranged vagrant, a near drowning. The cops, used to Mercury reporters sniffing around weird scenes, rolled their eyes but took notes. The ragdoll found nearby? Probably just junk, the sergeant dismissed, bagging it. Silas's heart sank as he saw it wasn't Lily's. Just a cheap imitation. Another dead end. Back at the decaying Mercury office, dawn bleeding through the grimy windows, Finch was ecstatic. Doc's drowning demon defeated by deranged dockside dweller. Thorne, you genius. We'll run it front page. Mercury reporter thwarts terror. Circulation will soar. He clapped Silas on the back, nearly knocking him over. Silas flinched, the pain from his chest wound flaring. Great, Mort, Silas mumbled, sinking into his chair. Exhaustion weighed a ton. Pablo perched on his monitor, looking uncharacteristically subdued. You look like something Pablo dragged in, Finch observed cheerfully. Get some rest, then find me another monster. He bustled off, already yelling about font sizes. Silas leaned back, closing his eyes. The adrenaline crash left him feeling brittle and empty. The creature was gone, a small evil vanquished. But Lily was still out there. The doll had been a cruel coincidence, a lure set by a different kind of predator. The ache in his chest wasn't just from the creature's blow. You pushed hard tonight. Compadre, Pablo said softly, packing his tiny pipe. That truth light trick. Clever. Dangerous, but clever. Didn't have much choice, Silas sighed, wiping the dried blood from his nose. Any leads? On the other thing? He couldn't bring himself to say her name. Pablo shook his gnarled head. The threads are old, Silas, frayed. But tonight, that thing wasn't natural. Something made it, twisted it. That kind of corruption. It leaves a signature, a stink that hangs in the ether. He puffed thoughtfully. Someone's playing with dark water magic in this city, bigger than a hungry Kappa hag. Epilogue, the business card. A week later, the Doc's demon story had indeed given the Midnight Mercury a fleeting pulse. Silas was back to chasing Elvis sightings and Bat Boy rumors. The ache of Lily's absence a constant companion. The wound on his chest had scabbed over, but the deeper one remained. Sorting through the mountain of crank mail generated by his heroic act, one envelope felt different. Thick, expensive parchment. No return address. Inside, no letter. Just a single, stark white business card. Embossed in elegant, icy blue script, it read, Aquilon Consulting, specializing in unique acquisitions resolutions. Serafina Vale, Principal. Silas flipped the card. On the back, written in the same blue ink, was a single chilling line. We know about the light in the cannery, Mr. Thorne, and we know what you seek in the dark. Perhaps we can be of mutual assistance. Call us. A phone number followed. Silas stared at the card. The name Vale rang a faint, ominous bell, whispers in magical circles about a ruthless collector of arcane artifacts. Cold dread pooled in his stomach. How did they know? About the spell? About Lily? This wasn't a tip. This was a gauntlet thrown. Pablo materialized on the desk, peering at the card. He sniffed it, then recoiled, wrinkling his bark-like nose. Trouble, Silas. Big, cold, expensive trouble. Smells like deep water and deeper pockets. His obsidian eyes met Silas's tired hazel ones. Mutual assistance usually means someone wants your magic, or your soul, sometimes both. Silas picked up the card, the expensive paper cool against his fingers. The hunt for Lily had just gotten infinitely more complicated and far more dangerous. The decaying newsroom, the dying tabloid, his worn trench coat, they felt like flimsy armor against whatever storm Serafina Vale represented. He slipped the card into his pocket next to his worn press pass and his smooth riverstone. The light had revealed the monster in the cannery. Now, it seemed, it had also revealed him to something much, much worse. The story wasn't over. It was only just beginning. The phone number on the card felt heavy in his pocket, colder than the lake at midnight. He knew, with a magician's grim certainty, that he would have to dial it. For Lily.